Hi, I'm out in Carmen, Manitoba at the Ian N. Morrison Research Farm with Ann Kirk, cereal crop specialist at Manitoba Agriculture. And we're looking at a winter wheat crop here,
yes.
Plot. And how is it looking, and what should farmers be looking for in their own plots this year?
Good. Things are just starting to green up in the field, so we've definitely noticed more green-looking crops and some more active growth. At this time of year, farmers should be assessing their plant stand, making sure that their crop is actually alive. It does take quite a long time of solid temperatures above zero for that crop to actually start actively growing. So early on in the spring, you might see a green winter wheat crop and think it looks great, it's alive, but it actually just still has its green from last fall. Other times you might look at the crop and you can't really tell, and it's important to actually dig up those roots earlier on in the season to make sure that the crown of that plant is alive.
And you were showing me earlier too, actually, what they should be looking for with that root nodule is like nice new little white shoots coming out of there.
Sure, yes, and it's important to go out in the field and actually be digging up plants to assess. So the crown of the winter wheat plant is what stays alive over winter, and that's where the new roots are coming out of. So this time of year, you can dig up your plants and you should see new, white, actively growing roots coming out from that crown. And that's obviously the indication that the crown is alive. If it's earlier in the season, say it's early April, and you're a little worried about your crop and trying to decide if you should make a reseeding plan, you can go out, dig up some plants, even if it's quite cold. You could just, keep them in their soil, put them in a pot in the house, add some water to see if those crowns are alive, and within a week they'll start growing and you'll see some new green shoots. Or you could dig them up like this, rinse off the roots, and just kind of cut the plant about an inch above the crown and keep it in like a Ziploc bag with warm air. And then in a few days you will see, if the crown is alive, you'll see new green shoots coming up.
Okay.
So it's important to assess the health of your crop early on in the season so you can make some fertilizing plans and potentially recropping plans if you have an issue.
Now, how many plants per square foot roughly would be considered a successful overwintering winter wheat crop or winter cereal crop?
So ideally you'd want to be targeting about that 20 to 25 plants per square foot. If you were in a situation where you had a lower plant stand, it really depends how even it is. So if you have a low plant stand and it's fairly even throughout the field, I'm talking even like say 10 plants per square foot, you would have be able to maintain a fairly good yield because that winter wheat crop can overcompensate with tillering.
Okay. So
even with a quite low stand, you can have a successful crop. The situation that becomes tricky is if you have a patchy crop. So if you have a patch in one area that looks pretty good and then other patches that are very poor plant stands, like, say if it's like less than 7 plants per square foot, the decision, it becomes trickier on what to do with that crop. Like, do you work up the whole crop and reseed it, or do you just manage those patches with better weed control and just making sure that field is still okay?
Okay. Now, when it comes to the different types of cereal crops that a farmer can plant, are there certain ones that do better over the winter, or are they all fairly evenly matched?
Like all the registered winter wheat and fall rye varieties do have fairly good overwintering. So if you are considering a crop, it's good to look at the seed guide because we do list a rating for overwinter. So just to make sure that it's actually in that good or very good range for how well it overwinters. Fall rye at this time of year definitely looks a lot better. It does start actively growing quite a bit quicker than winter wheat and greens up faster. It just takes a little bit longer for the winter wheat to show that it's actively growing.
Now, if farmers have assessed their crop and it doesn't look like it's going to survive very well, what kind of mitigation strategies should they be looking at?
If they are looking at reseeding, it's important to consider, first of all, think about what you're going to be reseeding to. Not seeding to a winter wheat crop is probably a good consideration. The risk is wheat streak mosaic virus. We need about a 2-week period with no actively growing winter wheat plants in order to replant to spring wheat. And at this time of year, that'd be pretty tricky. It's also hard to kill winter wheat. So even if you're doing a herbicide or tillage, you're going to end up with some winter wheat volunteers. So wheat streak mosaic is a risk. Other considerations are, obviously your crop rotation, what you previously had here, and then what sort of fertility is already down. So those considerations will depend on what you can reseed to.
Terrific. Is there anything you wanted to add that I didn't ask you about today?
I Oh, I guess it'd probably be good to talk about some of the overwintering or how to set your crop up for success in the fall.
Okay.
So when we're thinking about planting winter wheat, these are plots behind us, so they weren't planted into stubble, which is probably the most important thing to consider, is having a good quantity and quality of stubble. So making sure that your stubble is tall enough and you have enough of it in order to catch snow. So a crop without stubble won't catch as much snow. The crown will be quite a bit colder, and we'd have risk of freezing injury and more losses.
Okay.
So the amount of stubble for snow catch, the timing of your planting. So ideally, winter wheat and fall rye could be planted about September 1st to 15th. You can plant it much later and still have a very successful crop. But if we plant too early, the risk is having a crown that's too well developed and is more at risk for freezing injury. Another good consideration is phosphorus fertilizer going down with the seed. So phosphorus is really important for that winter survivability, so it's important to put down some phosphorus fertilizer with the seed to make sure the crop's getting off to a good start. And going into winter, we do want our crop to have about 3 leaves and a tiller. So this winter wheat that we're looking at here, it does have a tiller, and it went into winter with about 3 leaves, so that's pretty ideal.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much, Ann. Great
Thank
meeting
you.